Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we are back to another live stream of Magic the Gathering Arena. Today is Monday, December 16th. You probably can tell I didn't do much over the weekend since we have an actual 3 stack of things here. So let's just re-roll this one for 750. And that should make pretty easy work, actually, of getting these daily quests. We have 10 minutes for the Game Awards after party to end. There's no reason for me to go back and play that anymore, but it certainly wasn't a bad special event to let you play new cards. It gave me 3 of these new Theros Beyond Death packs that can't be opened yet. Updates happens to the point where we can now start building out friends lists. So I think we can just, let's see, here we go. Here's my number if people want to friend me. We are still I am still very much in an early phase of learning Magic the Gathering, so, and the game is particularly slower than even Hearthstone, so I'm not gonna guarantee more than like 1 game at most per stream. Let's see. And we now know, here, this is new, that the rotation ends in 30 days. So, on Mastery. So 30 days, which it will definitely not take 30 days to get to this point. It probably won't even take 30 days to get to this point. But unless you had just spent mad cash at the beginning and boosted yourself up as high as possible, and then spent the rest of the time getting uncommon card rewards, which aren't really worth it, you're not really gonna get the potential infinite amount of reward here. You're gonna get what you see, and that's pretty much it. And you're really only gonna get what you see if you had if you play nearly every day, or at least somewhat consistently. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday seems to be good enough for me. But also I came in a little late, so it may be that is just that. I have some concerns about the next mastery, which hasn't, I think, been really shown yet, but I feel like this is probably the bundle, because it says plus 10 levels, and they want me to pre-order it for $49.99. And yeah, that's gonna be a hard no on that one. And they really want you to spend $100, so you also buy a great bundle here of cards, and they don't even bother to tell you how many booster packs that is, which that sucks too. It's like that, but if you get both, you also get this. On top of that, they want you to spend 1,600 gold for 2 card sleeves. This limited time offer of 3,400 dusts, I wouldn't want to get. And then all the card skins are on sale right now because they're going to start selling all the other card skins later. If I was going to spend any money, I would spend this, but that Steam Christmas sale is coming up. Yeah, there's still a lot of opportunity. And while I didn't spend the weekend playing Hearthstone, I did spend the weekend at the Lego store buying Lego. So my obsession with Legos has cost me once again more than I would have preferred to spend, but they did have some exclusive. The Legoland centers, I didn't go to one of the big ones. There's like 2 or 3 around the world, big kind of Disney World-esque experiences. So we'll see what shows up here. Otherwise, doesn't look like there's any new news. So we can just kind of play ranked, I guess. Was there something I was specifically gonna try and work on? Let's just play a little white. I wanna, yeah, play a little white. Probably need to work on green still, red still, blue still. Blue in particular, I think we've got some thoughts too. We could play Liliana's Legion too, sure. Since we have that deck, we might as well play it every now and then. Got that from Twitch, being a Twitch Prime member. So yeah, there's 3 Legoland, like Disney World Legolands, and then there's Legoland entertainment centers that are small for young kid events. And I got dragged to accompany and chaperone some young kids to it, and they ran around and had a great time. But there was really not any focus for adult fans of Lego. There's a few places that have Lego builds to take pictures of and look at, but the vast majority of it is cheap small rides, a low budget knockoff of something you get at Universal Studios or Disney World or Disneyland. Not an all-day experience by any means, but definitely slightly more than just going to a McDonald's and playing in and having kids play in a playground. But the middle of the Legoland Center that I was in was effectively just a McDonald's playground, and but yeah, you could certainly argue that a significant amount of what they have is not even really not even really Lego related as much as it is just if I return the token to my hands, that guy will die. So what I should do is attack with this, then return this to my hand, and then next turn play that again and buff up our guy. I assume a token card would go get destroyed. Like, just the key phrase of a token card or token creatures doesn't make enough sense to me. It's one of the many problems I feel there are with having a game that has key phrases that really needs an entire guidebook next to it. Although, in fairness, if they just added more pop-up notifications to explain things a little bit more, if there was a way I could just right-click on this and then right-click on this and get more information, that would be nice. And then they're already still further ahead than Hearthstone ever was, because Hearthstone wouldn't even let you get this far. But it does eventually just boil down to them saying go to the website and hope that the website can explain things to you, and it doesn't seem like the website is fast enough or interactive enough that it would quickly give me an answer to that specific question. Although I guess I could have just tried to return it to my hand and seen what happens, and that's where we are in general, is just trying to figure out how this game works and how it's intended to work. See, well, this guy is flying, so it really wouldn't be a problem to let him go. So, yep. On the other project I've been working on, I simply had a program running on it, running on the battery to display the battery until the battery ran out. Because it's an e-paper display, the battery ran out and it left a bit of a shadow on the lowest value, thankfully, because otherwise that would have been kind of useless. Do I want to defend here, or do I want to get a 2-2? Let's defend. He may have me here, actually. Amass the number of cards in your hand. I'm doomed if I'm not careful. So he is playing a kind of late game green with, honestly, he's been playing like 3 or 4 different colors. What a strategy. Like, this guy knows what he's doing, clearly. Playing multiple colors. So, well, it gave me a value on what the lowest of the reading I was getting from the battery. I think what this boils down to is that I found a forum that seems to show that the battery values you get are just not accurate. Okay, so the after party event went off and it just is now ranked draft core set, which... Does this say when it ends? Not until you're close to the ending. And rank draft Throne of Eldrin. And I guess going forward, since 30 days from now we know that it's Theros Undead, we would just want to do rank drafts Theros and just try to... That's our next pack. That's the pack that we're going to try and actually have a big effort to get all those cards and move forward from that point. So yeah, according to the forum, the ESP32 chipset, it's not really calibrated and it's not really a linear response on its analog to digital converters, which seems to include the battery monitor pin that I'm reading off of, which would be A13 or just GPIO 35. Seems like they both go to the same thing, unless I'm just supposed to send some kind of line of code to initialize it first and tell it to read as an analog reception. I'm just going to get random numbers. The random numbers do represent in a non-linear kind of way whether the battery is high or low. So it's really just going to be a matter of setting some default values that are within 10 to 20% of what I think the maximum number would ever be and what the minimum number would ever be. So 20% less than the maximum number, 20% higher than the minimum voltage that the device can actually use. So draw cards. Do I want to draw cards? Maybe. Might as well. guy can't block me, so might as well do that. Although he does have the opportunity to do more damage than I do. So yeah, what you do is you just have those settings about 20% within the max and min of what you think it really will be, and then I just move it on to the next step of the program, which is to have a settings file, and in that settings file it will just set a new minimum and maximum, and as it's a device that's really only going to check the battery, I'm thinking once every 15 minutes. I suspect we'll whenever it occurs that you read the battery is lower than what the initial within 20% low ball numbers are, you just set the new maximum minimum to that. So as the battery goes lower and lower, you set it, and then you set it so that you have a new number to work by. It's a little bit complicated at that point, because what you're effectively saying is you don't know when the device would actually shut down, and you're writing to a file as the device is running out of battery too, so it needs to be a relatively quick process. It can't be a major thing, and you may very well corrupt the file system if it dies in the middle of writing something. And at that point, I think, particularly on the low ball number, you're going to have to shut down the device prematurely. So if you don't shut down the device after you read a number below what the minimum was, then you would have to give it another 15 minutes and just hope the device lasted that long before you check again. So you lose the opportunity to say, well, we know for this moment that the battery is at 0, or more, hopefully you'd want to stay within like 10% of 0 and not drain the battery completely in a rechargeable lithium polymer type battery. You don't want to drain them to 0, or drain them down below what they should be, not really 0. I'm gonna hold off on that one in case this one decides to attack, and we can see what happens. So yeah, the inconsistency on the readings also have a bit of a problem, in that they do seem like they go maybe 4 or 8 digits one way or the other, so it kind of really doesn't matter too much. So again, I just need to put in a percentage to. Now on the other end, if you're let's see, what does this do? I gotta read this. 4 damage to target creature, and you gain life equal to the damage dealt this way. Target player puts the top 4 cards in the library, amass 4. Alright. So who do we want? gone. I guess that way. And then that. So 4 damage to him, or maybe just 2 damage, we'll see. And then the same amount of life. But then I just discarded 4 cards to my hand. So now I can attack with this, I guess. We'll see what he wants to do there. Yeah, on the maximum side, if you just read a maximum value and you write that, that's fine always. And if I'm going to indicate that it's plugged in,
will make a nice souvenir.
which probably it's not necessary to try and draw a logo or an icon of a plug at all.
It's not often I'm outmaneuvered.
I could certainly determine that a device is plugged in whenever the voltage goes up be more than whatever that variance is, so more than 8 digits that it's reading. I could say, yeah, it's plugged in, but at a certain point it's going to hit that maximum voltage, and then it would say it's not plugged in anymore because it's not going up more than 8 digits, and there's no reason to really depict any of that because the charging and protection circuit on the device I have is just doing its own thing. It can't overcharge, it can't do anything dangerous like that, so it is more just a, well, for lack of a better term, prophylactic depiction than it is something that you would actually actually need or get any value out of. And it is a device that honestly would not it's a device that honestly would not really get plugged in or unplugged very often. I'm thinking about how it would be mounted on the wall. Come to think of it, there is some room there for questioning how you would plug it in if it's not permanently plugged in through wires through the wall. The way I want it to work is using a kind of standard light switch faceplate as a faceplate, although that could certainly change. Instead of having a significant amount of ugly, like 3D printed things that would be difficult to maintain a store or a stock of. But if it is a device that would be on a light switch faceplate, it probably at that point needs a riser to have a place where you could plug in the plug and charge it. Otherwise it is going to be a matter of you have to unscrew the whole thing from remove the faceplate to plug it in. But assuming I can get it to save the battery relatively well and last for months and months, which is the goal on one battery charge, it may not be such a big deal to have to run through a office and recharge all of your your digital signages. But clearly the smarter move would be to just have it plugged in always. But then that gets into weirdness too, because you need an in-wall circuit box, and that's gonna be another thing. Right. Zombie creatures you control have flying. There we go. So clearly I need to give it more thought. I'm just trying to get all the programming set up and going. It's a difficult process of just keeping focus more than anything. And there isn't a ton of news, video game news today, so I can talk about nerd stuff a little bit more. This is too many mana at this point, but I'll keep it. But yeah, just trying to get all the settings into a settings file using JavaScript objects, JSON as they're called, is something different than what I'm kind of used to, because the last thing I had started working with Python with was more focused around using the Windows XML config parser setup, which felt like at the time, and it still really is, it is the more standard way in which you would have settings in Linux in particular. If you're looking at a settings file in Linux, it's probably got a decent chance of being parsed out by the program using the config parser header files and support program, that's what header files are. It's just somebody else wrote some code that is kind of standard, semi-standard and useful. But JSON does seem like, as long as the file is not modified by end users, which I guess that is the big difference, it seems, between a config parser file and a JSON file, is that the end user is not really encouraged to manually open up a JSON file in Notepad. You can do it and make modifications, but you are taking your life in your own hands there, that you typed everything exactly correctly and you didn't screw up with like one word or one symbol. Let's see. Let's play this. And then let's attack. And yeah, there's just some more tidiness in a JSON file that will make it work fine. Although there are some memory management issues with at least the older versions of the header files that Arduino uses to parse out and use JSON files, which might be a bit of a problem for me because I'm planning on just putting in like bitmapped arrays of images into the settings file, and I'm planning at the moment to also not really separate the files out, so I do expect it to just be one giant file that has everything in it. It doesn't make a lot of sense to be so user-friendly to open up multiple files and have multiple things in multiple files. and it's not like I'm building in any real security or anything, so it's not like there's bits of information that the end user can't see. If anything, I'm going the other direction and trying to have it as easy to change and adjust as possible, so that it can be used in a professional environment and rebranded however they see fit. This is not a device designed to be a walking billboard for itself. It's a device to be a billboard for the things, the company that bought it. There we go. So, with that, I suppose we should start covering the news, since we want to wrap up relatively early. I'm fairly certain what we're gonna do is, when I get back to scheduling videos, I'm probably gonna stop scheduling Magic to air on the weekends. That I think we are just gonna fall more and more into just every weekday a Magic episode comes out, and we'll probably do that for all of 2020, and try to build up that way. And then, yeah, at some point I need to get back to that zombie driving game I was playing, and try playing that some more. Like, it's a slightly odd position and feeling to be distracted for other reasons. Usually when I'm not getting around to playing a game, it's because that game is frustrating and a pain in the butt. Now, I think this would be a decent one to mulligan. So, yeah, we'll mulligan and see how that didn't... I was trying to get rid of this card in particular. The symbol here means adamant. Okay. So we can throw that back, I guess. Let's see. You may reveal this card from your hand. If you do, scry 3 at the beginning of your first upkeep. Yeah. So we reveal a card. So we definitely want this. Definitely want that. And we'll get rid of that. And so that gives us an amazing amount of control, I guess, for our first couple turns. Like, we totally know what's going to happen. Oops. Did not move the tab window over. The Chrome window. So, no problem there. Let me just look at the news. The irony here is, it's very possible that what's going to happen is that we start getting news as I'm streaming, and then I run into a bunch of news because of that. Magic Arena does feature a streamer, content creator, seems like mostly Twitch streamers, fairly frequently, like every day, which is nice. That's something Hearthstone and Activision Blizzard could have done easily. Perhaps they're doing more vetting than you would assume there, because like it's not really, as a low-level failed YouTube content creator, which is becoming a growing list of people as things make more and more things happen. Put this on the field, I guess. Yeah, I don't expect that I would ever be the featured creator of Magic, particularly as someone who's publicly said they only really plan on playing Magic for a very brief time. And so I already have like one foot out the door as soon as the Marvel card game comes out and shows any chance of being successful at all. Like, I can't, it'd be really hard to imagine it didn't succeed, honestly. Just by being a Marvel product. Alright. But it is nicer to see that there is a community there, and that community does seem to have a desire to be supported by Magic Arena, at least on their Twitter feed. But yeah, I can already see the beginning of the end as far as video game news today, and yeah, frankly, if it gets to the point where we've got all the daily quests done and all that needs to be done on top of that is just more games, more victory games, I can try to get that off screen fairly easy, or I can just miss it completely. We know now, we've been given that limit, so in theory the next 30 days I should get all 10 victories to maximize the amount of experience I get. But it really doesn't even matter to me that much, and that's from somebody who is that's from somebody who spent the money and is invested quite a bit into the mastery. Alright, well, amass a couple more, that wouldn't help. What does this card do? 4 damage. Amass. So, like, all you could do is this, and then make this player discard 4. And then I can attack with 9, but I lose. But I still lose here, because he probably with this one card could have done something more, but even at this I was still 1 short. If I had played that last turn, I may have actually done better. You can only stretch this out so far, though. This'll ruin him. Wow, I may have somehow saved myself. Puts that back on the field, and then he would have to play a whole bunch of cards again to try and power that guy up. So they already have this. So we want to play this again. And then this. That way we just have more and more characters on the field, and then attack with this and attack with that. Yeah, 9, 18, 27. 4 turns, if I can survive 4 turns and do massive amounts of damage. Probably 3 turns, actually. Unless this guy can get buffed up above a 3, I can defend him with one of these. Now is there something I can do to get rid of that guy? Guess not. Cannot attack or block. So all I can do is attack with 1 now. Well, I can block with that if I wanted to, but we'll wait. So TechRaptor has an article here. Gears Tactic fights for freedom in 2020. This is the spin-off Gears of War game that probably was a early push and an early decision for the next Xbox, the Xbox Series X, because this, I do recall this being announced like a year or 2 ago, in the same time that the next Gears of War game was coming out, and it's gonna be weirdly available like a year later. Or 6 months later than Gears 5 came out. In the meantime, we've seen what seems like on the outside a much better arrangement happening between third-party producers and the third-party producers and Microsoft. Also, Microsoft has acquired a couple other companies, but that may not really play much of a big deal. -2/2 until the end of the turn. Fine. We will do that, and then we will all attack. Well, we'll not all attack. Well, I mean, can't we all attack? Though, yeah. Because this one can defend, unless they play a card. So yeah, this one then just defends that. That lets him get to 10. Alright.
This is
isn't your average zombie horde. Impressive, isn't it?
Each player sacrifices 2 creatures.
Oh,
I'll do that.
do love a good death
And
wail.
that.
They were a lousy servant, and death is enlightening.
Let's see. Go ahead and draw a card too. That was like the one card I needed. Now it's Planeswalker versus Planeswalker. Alright.
Rise and shine.
Just keep on drawing cards. And win. I'm surprised. That was surprising. Surprising victory there. And see, I'd been adopting kind of a pessimistic, fatalistic attitude in a lot of ways with some of these games where it's just like if you're down to 10 in the first 3 down 10 life in the first 3 turns, you probably should give up, and you probably still should, but I have been probably conceding a little bit more than I should. Where we aren't at here is we don't have like a ton of wilds, and I would like to see. It would have been nice if between wilds and opening like potentially 50 packs, which I think that's how much a pack costs. Like, let's just double check here. Yeah, pack is 1,000 gold, so opening 50 booster packs would not be, and having probably 2 or 3 times as many wilds as we have right now would be somewhat more helpful. Let's see, moving on with the news. Gamatsu has an article here for the PC and PS4. Wings of Darkness has been delayed to Q1 2020 for PC, and there's an opening movie. Let's see. What kind of game is it? It's not labeled, so I will watch the movie but not show it just in case. It is not YouTube family friendly, which I imagine is still going to be a thing that we have to deal with in the new year. In 2020 anyways. Wings of Darkness looks like it is a mech fighting game, and the clip is being kind of deceptive or sneaky about what it's showing. It's not really showing a lot. Just what seems to be a couple of female pilot anime girls. That's about all I could say. It does seem like it may be more of a flight simulator than your standard third-person mech game, and it seems like it's a transforming mechs that can turn from a plane mode to a fight mode. This looks like a game that if it were an on-rail shooter, I would probably have a better appreciation of it than if it was a full control mech game. But yeah, that trailer did not show a lot. I feel like there's a Wings of series. There's several games that are called Wings of something. One of them I think is called like Wings of Omniasia, but that could be an anime. And they may be connected, they may not. That's one of those situations where it might just translate from Japanese that way, and they may not be really connected things. Alright, I guess I want to block that guy. And cause less damage to myself. Draw 2 cards, not at this point. Send the guy back. Not a terrible thought. So we'll just go ahead and attack here, I guess. Moving on, we have a Gematsu article for PS4 and PC. Five Nights at Friday VR Help Wanted non-VR mode update launches December 17th. So this is probably the beginning of a trend we'll see with a lot of VR games that were made as gimmick VR games, or at least sold in part because they were gimmick VR games. Now abandoning VR in part and having the regular version of their game come out. Oh man, I did not do well there. This next game on Steam is tagged sexual content. It's a visual novel, obviously, but we'll stick to the good screenshots that are alright. We have a game here called 7 Days, and it's $35.99 from, like, is that Fruit Bat Factory? That's a new one to me. English with full Japanese audio. The price is right to make it look like it probably is a real visual novel of quality, and the animation is a little bit off, I would say, from what I would normally expect or normally see. It's off in a weird way. It's kind of a softer, more like colored pencil pastel look to the animation style, but I think I would heavily put it in the category of being some artist's art style more than it being just an indication of a lack of effort or a lack of skill. There is no image in any of the screenshots I'm seeing that look bad, although there are perhaps some facial expressions and just anatomy decisions. There's one with a very thin neck, for instance. They all seem to have pretty thin necks, and you're not getting a lot of variety on the cleavage size either. But if you like the screenshots, you probably are fine with potentially liking the game or potentially trying the game out. So yeah, I'll put it on the fall list and we'll see what the user feedback is. Alright, so if I hit that with that, and then that with that, and then yeah, I guess that's probably what you want to do. Let's see. So now we have a 6/6. This really is a deadly deck to play. It is a deck that you really have to know the cards you have and understand the strategy you're playing. Otherwise, you just won't have enough defense on the ground. What does this do? Battlefield tapped. That'd just be one card. I don't think I could play that. So we want that, we want that, we want that. What do we want? I mean, we should take all of these, frankly, because they're not bad. So do I want to start attacking? No, because I'm in this bad position. I'm still really in a bad position. Because he could just attack with 3 and work his way around to doing 3 damage. If anything, he could probably still do 3 damage if he just has like 1 red spell that can do 3 damage. I'm not in a good position, to say the least. Alright. So, knowing that, let's put as many creatures as we can on the field. I'm getting a fire sound effect in the audio that sounds... It's getting a little repetitive. Seems to be stuck in a loop or... well, something. Put this on the field. Right, you have a flying 5/5. Should play that. Next we have a game on Steam here called TSM 3 Gemini Strategy, and then a bunch of Asian characters. Now this doesn't look like an RPG Maker game, but it clearly is a RPG. I would argue this is probably closer to a Super NES style RPG than an NES style RPG. It's early access, $5.39, English and Chinese. And so then it really just comes down to, is this possibly a good Chinese product, or do I just assume that all Chinese games are cheap Chinese games? I don't think it's fair to just assume anything that supports Chinese language is bad. Almost certainly I wouldn't play an RPG anyways, but I'm willing to put this on the follow list and give it the benefit of the doubt. Again, I don't think I'm quite ready for this. It's gonna probably take me longer to do a Steam wishlist cleanup as it takes, because of just the... oh, I've lost. He figured out a way to give everything else trample. How did everything else all of a sudden get trample? This isn't fair. This isn't fair at all. So Yeah, finally that fire sound effect decided to stop playing. Alright, let's swap over now. We've played with Liliana's Legion enough. Let's just go back to our regularly scheduled black deck. We may very well have just one stream today. We have a game here called Night Swap 2, which seems to be an evolution of the single screen Unity games where you swap knights in different positions. I played a game like this before. Let me see if it's getting recommended. I don't seem to own Night Swap 1. But I'm fairly certain I have played a game like this before. And I didn't get as far through it. Like a lot of these single screen things. Yeah, Night Swap 1 here is rated very positively. It's on my following list. Yeah, I like kind of spotlighting these puzzle games, but they are really the epitome of puzzle games that I am not going to do all the puzzles with, and I just want to own, just to own. It gets down that dangerous path of just, am I spending money to own something I'll never play, or only partially play? Which there definitely are some games like that, like the pinball games in particular. Like I haven't gotten around to playing those or spotlighting those. Lots of games in my collection are similar. I will say Night Swap 2 is different because there's an upside down, almost Rubik's Cube element to it where you're flipping things upside down and right side up. So it is expanding on the idea, which is certainly something to be applauded, considering how many of these types of games really just make a bunch of puzzles, sell the first version, make a bunch of other puzzles, and sell the second version. So a lot of games are it's 100 puzzles for the first game because that's the arbitrary number they decided, and then 100 puzzles for the next game because that's what they arbitrarily decided, and that's kind of that. I was accused of not blinking enough, and that might be why my eye is all dried out and hurting, and that is very possible. That might be a slight after effect of having spent so much time in my life playing video games that there's really isn't a lot of blinking that goes on. This is one of those scenarios where we just need to try and kill as many creatures, so we need to attack as much as possible. Next game we have on Steam is called Barrage Musical Basic Danmaku Tutorial. This is classified as a bullet hell shooter, and it does seem like it is. So I don't get the Barrage Musical and basic Danmaku tutorial element there. So either this is a Chinese game that is just trying to sell itself with a bunch of keywords and they don't even know what the words mean, or this is an actual Japanese game and there's some kind of musical element in a bullet hell shooter. It's discounted to $1.19 for the tutorial, which seems weird, and then it's Chinese interface where it's only subtitles for English and Japanese, which makes me think it probably is just a low effort bullet hell shooter that is selling itself with a bunch of keywords that they don't even know the meaning of. And Unfortunately, this is kind of where it is going to be. I think odds are not high that we run into any really good games for the rest of the year, which that's fine. Like, busiest non-gaming events happen in December in post this point, so having very little to talk about can be very helpful. Alright, do I have enough to win here? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, plus 10, 12, 14. Let's try it. We've got it. I love how the strategy it completely ignores the fact that he had 7 characters, including a commander character on the field. Mostly ignores the fact that he had nearly 20 life. We had 18 life. It just does not matter. If you can save up just enough health and get a couple of those guys on the field, a couple of the vindictive vampires on the field, you are fine. You will win. And that happens with a higher level of success than any other strategy I have seen so far. I haven't seen this card. Return up to 2 target permanent cards from the graveyard to your hand. Regenesis. Oh, well, you know, the reason probably why I haven't seen any of these cards is because this is a previous expansion. Mythic Rare Wild card is great. One more of those. Those aren't coming very quickly by any means, and I don't think they ever really will. Next, we have a game on Steam here called Food Girl Civil War, and then a bunch of Asian characters around it. It's tagged as a visual novel. It seems to me like it is half like comedy visual novel dating game and half food cooking themed experience. The video here, though, does seem like it's rather highly animated, so this really wouldn't be something I would call like a bad visual novel. This looks like a top tier one just on the amount of animation you're seeing, because remember, you can still pretty well get away with just having stationary characters. Where it was this other video, yeah, in particular, yeah, see, it's seems like it's Chinese cooking fighting and versus Japanese cooking fighting, maybe. Food being a point of pride. So yeah, there's a whole collection of anime girls. $17.99. English, Japanese, full audio, Chinese. This looks like this is Japanese. All characters are 18 years or older, but then there is no warning even at the bottom here. Geez, it would be funny if all of a sudden Steam abandoned their mature content warning section that they just added. That would be crazy. So, but they clearly have done something to it to desire to focus on not highlighting it when that doesn't exist. Let's see. Next game we have on Steam is Tag Sexual Content from Kagura Games. We have here Shira of the Three Treasures, and you just really need to look at this screenshot to see what this is. This is one of these extremely low effort RPG maker style games, NES looking RPG with a big busted anime girl, and it's going to have maybe, if you're lucky, 3 or 4 scenes of an adult nature in it, and you're going to have to play 20 to 60 hours to get that incredibly small amount of content. I suppose there still are some countries where you just cannot access like Pornhub, or there are just some people that want the thrill of the hunt in the same way that I guess there are some people out there that would enjoy the process of staying in the forest for an 8-hour stretch to potentially hunt and shoot one animal. Perhaps there is just some people out there that enjoy grinding for 10 hours before they get to see one image. It's almost certainly at this point some form of a delayed gratification fetish that I imagine could be served better in other ways. But it's certainly just not something that I would recommend to most people, or even who are in the market for looking for adult games. You're better off going to Nutaku and just playing those games. Those games probably, from the looks of them, show you the good stuff within 5 minutes. And then you can grind for hours and hours if you want to afterwards and see even more good stuff. Alright, here we go. Are we ready? Or do we want to do this? No, you want to do this first, always. Because you just never know. You want to be able to see. Because that got me 2 more cards. Whereas playing one of these wouldn't have done that. TechRep does an article here, playing with balls in atmosphere. I think we already talked about this game. It looks like it's a ball physics simulation game, of which there's many on Steam. Here they go. It's not the most visually satisfying or the most challenging, but Atmosphere is able to roll a few hours of minor entertainment for those looking for something small to play. Which, frankly, this is not the way you should review a game like this, because you have to be presence of mind and know that the large amount of Steam is full of games like these low effort Unity experiences. Okay. Do we want to do this? I mean, I could do it, certainly. And it would ruin his day, certainly. Sure. So we're going to get rid of this one, and this one, and one of these. For a second there, I thought I had lost. But nope. Without doing the numbers, I had just won. And we didn't even get to our final form. Yeah. There's very little positive you can say here about this. Is perhaps there's a different gym in every level, and you're trying to get those as you roll around. Perhaps the levels are bigger, but this is super dark to hide the fact that these are assets that have been pre-bought. This number here, I assume, would have to be a distance. Otherwise, how are you getting points? And if you are getting points, why are there only 94 instead of just rounding up to 100 points? Little coins here that I guess you're supposed to collect. A game like Glover came out a long time ago, and that was a game where you roll around the ball. But also that game was pretty massive, so there was more than enough content in Glover, and it was in a very different age than we are in now. Glover would basically be labeled as a low effort bad game by modern standards, and it wasn't like it was even a amazingly well received game when it came out. This is a mulligan hand, certainly. That's much better. Let's see, next we have a game on Steam called Sweet Thomas, which looks like a Super Meat Boy frustration platforming game. And I really don't like the art palette here, the color palette. It's just a weird pastel purplish pink with a weird fuzzy blue. It feels like everything just has blur on it, which somebody went through some effort to do that. And otherwise it just looks like a boring frustration platformer. $10.99, bunch of languages, 10 achievements with numbers, which typically indicates an achievement game. So that's not something that needs to be on my follow list. Next, Gamatsu has an article here for the PC, PS4, smartphone, and Switch. Death Come True, to be released for all of those things, iOS and Android. What is Death Come True? Full motion video game directed and written by the Danganronpa creator Kazutaki Kadoka. Yep. But just this one real screenshot. This is very early days. I've complained about it before, about how the Japanese love to announce things way earlier than they should, and then often they just with impunity delay those same things that were announced later because the announced date they made up was not well thought of or well planned. Alright. So we're gonna have to make a hard decision, I think, pretty fast here. Because either I'm gonna want to play this or I'm not. We could just hold on to this as a backup plan. Let's see, next there's a game that came out called Jack-o'-lanterns Covered of Darkness, which from the looks of it looks like a alleyway shooting game, standing in one place and shooting things. There's a screenshot here indicates that you might have more of an ability than you really do. Doesn't even look like these jack-o'-lantern monsters are walking towards you. This looks incredibly low effort. It looks like a dungeon crawler attempt. $3.24, English only, third party EULA. Yeah, right. Nothing here of any value. Did I not end my turn? And I guess I didn't. Let's see. December 14th, the Epic Store had problems. They said the login, purchase, and account service issues have been resolved. We're still having a lot of reports like that, seeing a lot of reports from the Epic Games Store themselves saying that, yeah, things just are not running smoothly enough from them to potentially not mention it globally on the Twitter. December 14th, Nightbot, the chat software I use, apparently got their channel banned, and for some reason, probably a false ban, and due to that, it was down or is down right now for YouTube. Yeah, that's weird, certainly. They're reaching out to their YouTube contacts, and a significant amount of people actually use Nightbot, so it's not a software that I think would just go unheeded. But yeah, people all over the place seem to be going up. Forward trample. Alright. Great. Play this. So now I have enough to play this. And then end the turn. So next turn I think I will just play this. He had enough. He had enough to defeat me. We'll do, I think, one more game, and then that'll be it for today. I have so many of these streams. Yeah, I haven't even killed all the opponent's creatures. I will definitely want to play more today off screen to at least get that done. So the internet troll known as Wendy's Twitter feed or Wendy's Canada in this case, put out a picture after the Xbox Series X was announced. 10 patties of fresh, never frozen Canadian beef. This is our dream. Hashtag Kapow your dreams. The Wendy's Dave Series X, freshest, most flavorful. Honestly, even going to a triple patty is too tall for a burger. If you have to squish a burger ever to fit it into your mouth, you're going to squish out the juices of the meat and make a mess, or squish out the toppings or the sauce or something else. So double patties right now, at the thickness that they cut their patties, is the most realistic, tallest thing they could do. And of course you couldn't really serve this. If you were going to serve this, you'd probably have to put like a skewer all the way down it, and then have people pull a ridiculously long skewer out of it. But yeah, it clearly was just a joke. And funny enough joke. I did hear you can turn the Xbox Series X on its side, which, okay, I don't know why they're presenting it in its upright version then, perhaps just to differentiate itself. It does probably at that point indicate that there isn't some kind of upfiring speaker there or a Cortana type speaker, but there very well may be something at the top there that still would play a role. I would want to see the back of the Series X more than the sides or the top or anything else. And something I missed on the Series X also is that they have modified the controller ever so slightly by adding a third button, something in between and below the start and select button. I assume that that's some extra functionality. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a Cortana type trigger. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a dedicated streaming button. It kind of looks like it's an arrow with a line, so it could pull down a pull down top menu. One of the things I'd like to see the Series X have is picture-in-picture streaming of some sort. Of several sorts actually. If you are live streaming and you can hook up a face cam directly to a Xbox Series X, that would be cool, to encourage more streamers on like Mixer. But it would also be fairly cool if it was if they had a picture-in-picture just for Netflix and such. Like I could see why people would want to stream while they're playing. Yeah, he's just gonna give up. Yeah, it's really only when you have a 750 quest like this that the 15 victories per day starts to make sense. And we also have our weekly victories too, so that's going to help us jump up. Yeah, we have 4 more of these weekly victories to get the last bits of the mastery. I'd feel very sorry for anybody who had just bought the mastery level in the past couple of weeks, but I'm not sure if the storefront has even been offering it or highlighting it as an offer. They probably have been offering it. They probably still are offering it right now, but maybe they're selling it at a discount. And that might be the way to hold out and figure out. It's not really worth the effort to make a secondary account and check, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there is some kind of discount to get the mastery at the very, or as we approach the end of the mastery season. Let's see, let's get rid of that. That's the card we almost never play. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article, A Knight's Quest is Worth Embarking On, which this is, I believe, the game that is being made. No? Oh, this is not the one made by the Game Freaks company? I could have sworn it was. Knight's Quest feels like Ocarina of Time. It's made by Sky9 Games and Curve Digital. Looks interesting. Interesting enough. Looks like one of those kids' games. They got it on the Epic Store. It's probably an Epic Store exclusive. That's probably why I haven't seen it or heard of anything from it. And yeah, we are kind of just winding down, I think, till the end of this year as far as Epic Store exclusives. I would be surprised if we hear more than half a dozen stories in 2020 about games being Epic Store exclusives, and that being something that people care about or are upset about. I think that in itself has wrapped up. The Epic Store in particular has failed to show such a massive benefit in the number of sales and the amount of profit to bring in new people to want to have exclusives on their storefront. It probably will still get greedy people to do exclusives, although at a certain point, if you're EA or Ubisoft, why not just have those on your own storefronts that already exist as exclusives if you're going to try and do that. He's just countering all my attacks, which is not going to save him. TechRaptor has an article here, Halo Reach PC review. Let's see. From what I've heard, Halo Reach is fine. I haven't heard anything about it, so one would assume that if it was absolutely terrible, people would be complaining way more. I did hear a little bit complaining, but that was kind of it. Play this. And we can kind of take our time, I think. So TechRaptor has a review here. They gave it an 8.5. Halo Reach is more of the same game, which is a great thing. It feels like a natural fit for PC and runs great. There's a few issues with a certain game mode lockouts. I don't know what they meant to. I guess that's probably a typo there. I mean, jeez. How could you not like run this through a spell checker and catch that? With certain game mode lockouts and limited graphic options, but overall it's stellar. Pros are mouse and keyboard works incredibly well. Port runs perfectly. Campaign aged well. Multiplayer is still fun. Cons: limited graphics options. Controller aim assist seems too strong in some repetitive playlists. So yeah, that doesn't really change my decision on Halo Reach any. As a video game critic, it has such a high amount of relevance, the Halo series, that it's not realistic to not assume that at some point I'm going to, at the very least, spotlight all or most of the Halo series. And I don't think that there would really be a great breaking off point. I don't think I can say let's just start with Halo 2 because Halo 1's so old. I don't think I could say let's start with Halo 4 because Halo 3 is kind of the end of that first trilogy. I don't think I could say start with Halo 3. I think there might be an argument for regular players to maybe start with Halo 3. But you can't really make that argument with a video game critic. And I haven't played any of the Halo series before, so there is this extra motivation in which I would really want to try and play the entire series in its story mode. I almost certainly wouldn't touch the multiplayer much, if at all, which probably would be a weirder experience, but yeah, that would be pretty much how it goes. Moving on, we have a Rune 2 review. I think I said that we were going to have our last game, by the way, 2 or 3 games ago. Yeah, I'm not quite done with the news, so I'm going to just keep going. Rune 2 here looks like it is a RPG game, and not doing anything amazingly different, although it might be more of a Viking themed RPG game than most. So let's see, they gave it a 4.0. The bland monotony of Rune 2 removes the majority of fun from an otherwise exciting premise. There's slim chance that problems can be fixed and more can be added, but don't hold your breath. Pros are unique sliding difficulty scale, decent character models and textures, and then exciting stories. The cons is the stories quickly become stale, and its empty world design and sluggish movement, cluttering inventory system, and several bugs and crashes. And getting a 4.0 is saying a lot here. TechRaptor on occasions does video reviews, and so yeah, it's like they tried to make an RPG based on the God of War new God of War game, which in itself is pretty much an RPG. So I don't know why you would really want to play Rune 2 instead of the new God of War. And I feel like there's probably something else. Like, I feel like there was a game called Ragnarok Online or something that would probably be a better fit. This is funny. All he has is all he has is counter cards. He's just trying to counter cards like crazy. His name is Will Crusher, which I believe is the real name of Wesley Crusher in Star Trek 2. Or perhaps it is a joke reference. So unless he can counter Bola Citadel, which he probably can, it's a decent chance. But I think I can still win without Bola Citadel even. And I have another Bola Citadel if necessary. And pretty much now, if these 3 die in any way, I win the game. Meanwhile, if this gets on the field, probably win the game. He's got a block now, or I win the game. TechRaptor has an article. The Outer Worlds DLC arrives in 2020. I still think I want to play the Outer Worlds, but I would say the Outer Worlds, and there's some other games kind of similar like this. There's like 2, maybe even 3 space western Fallout clone type games. None of them seem to be much better than Fallout 4. What I really would have wanted to hear is for them to have said that that the Outer Worlds was way better than Fallout 4. It's way more worth playing. Fallout in itself, Fallout 4 or the Fallout 3 or even Fallout New Vegas also had a lot of open world elements to it, so and modability elements to them. So you can find your own fun in the Fallout Bethesda games, and I'm not sure that the Outer Wilds or the Outer World, can't even remember the name, and I just looked at it, can accomplish that. So you might play the Outer Wilds and just do a main story, and that being that, and that's not terrible, but it is a harder sell, particularly considering how I was graciously gifted Fallout 4 and just never found the time to play it. So it would make a lot more sense to play the main story and do a quick burst run through that. It's not attack. Next we have a game on Steam here called Race Simulator, which is just a low effort prototype of a racing asset flip type game. It's absolutely nothing. Early access, free to play. I guess the price is right. English only, 5 achievements. But really looks like the beginnings of a student project. It doesn't look like something that should be on Steam. And so often we say that. What's funny is when something is an actual student project and it's sold as a student project, I'm way nicer to it than when it is a game that looks like a student project and then presents itself as if it isn't that. Let's see. Is it gonna counter me? No, it's just gonna take forever. It's really hard to get that daily quest where you have to defeat creatures, because you kind of have to play against your own intentions, because often when you're attacking and defeating creatures, you're doing it at the risk of taking life force damage. Moving on, Game & Sutra has an article, Animoca Brands buys Power Rangers Legacy Wars developer Inway, which they also made Chrono Blade and Power Rangers Battle for the Grid, which I think is the most recent game, so I don't know why they're mentioning the Legacy Wars game. That's probably cool. It probably is an indicator that they are moving on to that they're getting a little bit more funding, and that we will see more Power Ranger games come out, and they will be a good second tier alternative to the many Dragon Ball games that come out. And there's certainly enough fans of Power Rangers to justify doing that. Let's see. OpenCritic had an article here. World War Z gets Horde mode tomorrow. This was written December 16th. Okay. I don't know if I'd ever want to play World War Z though, because I think it's a multiplayer only game. So maybe Horde mode is a single player element to it. But so do I want to just win at this point? I think I probably can just win. Well, I guess he'll just decide that I'll win instead. Yeah, I am doing well as far as daily victories, and just terrible as far as defeating opponents' creatures. Next we have a game on Steam called Melbit's World, which seems kind of like it's a isometric puzzle or kind of platformer. Looks like it might be a Lemmings concept that's been expanded. Expanded to have fewer lemmings, more that really count. You see like 1 of 4, or so, like 4 on the screen at the same time. I kind of wonder if there's a loop or time travel element here, or if you just have to start the level over and over again. Needs a controller. It's $9.89. It supports a bunch of languages. I'm willing to put this on the follow list. Yeah. This is one of those games that looks polished enough, so it really would just come down to whether people actually played it and received it well. Do I want to keep this? It's a little iffy to keep this one, but yeah, we'll do it. We'll risk it. Tech Raptor has an article here. Apple Arcade yearly subscription arrives with a 16.5% discount. So I thought it was $5 a month, and I guess they just did not roll out a 12-month in advance purchase option, and so now if you want to buy it in the United States, it's $49.99 per year. So they want you to lock in $50. A cynical person would suspect that in the next 12 months they may not have very many or very good games signed up to be on Apple Arcade, and they put their best foot forward. And while they did come out with some good games, it's not like they had a huge amount of good games on Apple Arcade or anything that is a system seller. They certainly didn't get a Nintendo level style game, something just hugely you've got to have it. No Zelda Twilight Princess or anything like that on Apple Arcade, and I don't know if Apple Arcade could actually even have a game like that easily because of the limitations of the hardware. I imagine people who are Apple fans would buy into the $50 subscription a lot faster than people who aren't. But I imagine a lot of Apple users aren't actually Apple fans so much as they are just Apple users out of convenience. Let's see. Gamma Sutra has an article here. I think this article in particular is a joke. Learn how Remedy built controls mind-bending Ocean View Motel at GDC. It's an advertisement for GDC, clearly. But there's really nothing you need to know about how Remedy built the Ocean View Motel. There's nothing special there. To get into the Ocean View Motel in Control, you pull a light switch 3 times or more sometimes, and you appear in the motel. Having a character appear in a new area and teleport is not hard programming. Yeah, basically anybody can do that. When you're in the hotel, there are several instances, all of which just require you to click and interact with a few things, which is hardly groundbreaking. And you solve a puzzle by clicking and interacting with those few things. And once you've solved the puzzle, then there is a door that opens, and then there's another chain pull switch that you pull 3 times, and it teleports you back to the rest of the game in a different location. There's nothing special there. Like, there's nothing special in that programming at all. nothing crazy. If you were going to talk about the not the Ocean View Motel, but the I think it's called the Matchstick Maze or something. The maze where the world is changing a lot. At least there, then you can talk about integrating music to animation changes and 3D world environment changes. You can talk about how you'd run into potentially some bugs as the floor shifts under you, so that you have to be careful the character's doesn't fall through the floor. But yeah, the Ocean View Motel itself, while something that people definitely enjoyed and it was entertaining, it is just doing something very simply in a nice way, a good looking way, and an entertaining way. And so if you were to go to that presentation, I think you'd probably be bombarded with nostalgia for a game that's less than a year old at this point, and nothing else really. You're not going to learn a lot as far as programming happens. And almost certainly what they did is they had several instances of the same hotel. They copy and pasted 99% of everything, and then they changed some of the audio and some of the environments and some of the way things worked for every instance, which is not hard. Next, there's a game on Steam called I Can't Believe It's Not Gambling 2K, which is a troll joke game, almost certainly, of slot machines. This is probably somebody doing a Jim Sterling's going, yeah, 2K is just putting in gambling simulators, in particular, to lambast the 2K game that they added basically gambling into it. But the problem here is they're selling it for $1.95, so this isn't I'm offering my speech for free to make a political statement. This is I'm making a political statement to sell a product to make money. And you can see this is also someone who's decided to bundle a bunch of bad looking games together. So yeah, it's a troll developer trying to virtue signal in part. This is English only, and not a game I would recommend anybody ever buying. It's just not behavior that should be supported, and not something that I believe should be allowed on Steam. And then next we have a game called Ghetto Conspiracy, which looks too like a troll game, but maybe not. It's a point and click adventure, and I am a sucker for point and click adventures. The question is it going to be good, or is this a troll game? They want $9.99. It's English and French. I guess what you do is you put it on the follow list and just see if people respond or not. If it supports English and French, though, I kind of have a problem with. I guess this maybe is in Europe. This might be a Russian troll game, honestly. Just trying to sow discontent between the many immigrants that were allowed into Europe and the previous European citizens. Next we have a game on Steam called Ram Bunny, which looks like a student project platforming game. Nothing interesting here. 59 cents discounted, whole bunch of languages, 21 achievements. choose attackers. So we'll attack with that one and that one for sure. Could attack with that one too. TechRaptor has an article here. Surprise! THQ Nordic releases a Gothic remake prototype. So, basically, they want to see if people would be interested in a Gothic remake, which is a interesting concept, at least in general. Instead of, it's a playable teaser, like PT, which also stood for playable teaser. Now, I'm not familiar with the Gothic series, so I could play this teaser and go, yeah, this does look interesting. But I don't really have an amazing amount of faith in THQ Nordic, although THQ Nordic is now just a conglomeration of many different companies, so it is very possible that, I believe it was Piranha Bytes, or no, Piranha Bytes won't be working on this, but I think this game was owned by Piranha Bytes, or created by Piranha Bytes originally. So they got the rights to the game. They're going to have a different company other than the company that they acquired make the new version of the game, which doesn't sound like a smart way to do things. Gothic came out in 2001, so you're talking 18 years ago. 18 years ago, there was a RPG called Gothic. Okay, good to know. It's probably better for THQ Nordic to do something like this, putting out a playable teaser and surveying the interest that way, than what has been the standard mode of operation before, which is to make a Kickstarter as a AAA developer and then get people to kickstart and pre-purchase games that won't be released for years and years later. I wouldn't put it past THQ Nordic to do both eventually, but yeah, seeing that come out, and that this is certainly something that happens, like it happens a lot in the video game world, is that people make playable teasers and show it to publishers and try to get funding that way, and it would not be beyond the realm of skill and financing, in my opinion, to have THQ Nordic just have greenlit the development of a Gothic remake and started development in secret, which is normally how this goes. So there's kind of a clear lack of confidence in a Gothic remake, which is not something I think THQ Nordic can really afford. They need to kind of remake every game that they own and have a consistent amount of games that they're churning out that are at a certain level of consistently good. Darksiders Genesis seems to be a pretty good game, so it's gaining a little bit more notoriety there because of that, but they're also in the doghouse with all SJWs for daring to have a Q&A on 4chan. So for years now, perhaps even decades, people may just hold a grudge and refuse to give them any due credit, and they have so little due credit right now anyways. So that's a concern also. THQ Nordic, I guess, at best needs to just go direct to its audience and and try very hard to make good sales pitches for good games and not throw any more curveballs into it. We don't want any bad games coming out for a good decade or so. Let's see. Gamatsu has an article here. Final Fantasy VII Remake details Sephiroth, Shannara, Aerith abilities, Shiva summon, more Tifa and Sephiroth visuals. So, a large collection of just images and teasers, and just trying to build up the hype for Final Fantasy VII. They need to really pull back all the funding as far as building hype and put all that funding into actually finishing the game. This is a very Square Enix thing Square Enix is doing here, where they can't even promise that they're going to sell the remake in 2 parts. It may be 3 parts, it may be 4 parts, it may be 5 or 6 for all they know, or for all they're telling at least. And yet there's a ridiculous amount of trailers getting put out and teasers and images, and it's just like, you don't need any of that until you can have a finished product to show off. What's going to happen is people are going to run out of enthusiasm before the game even finishes, and you're going to have something very much like Kingdom Hearts 3 scenario, where had Kingdom Hearts 1, 2, and 3 been the only games that were released, and they were released over the course of 6 to 8 years, people would have thought it was a great trilogy and loved it, I'm sure. But because they just stretched things out and took forever, most people didn't even finish it. Excuse me. TechRaptor has an article here. Diabolical Epic Games Store release upset backers and refunds are being offered. The Kickstarter funded arena shooter Diabolical is going to be moving to the Epic Games Store, and it's launching as a free-to-play title. As a consequence, the Kickstarter backers are being offered a refund. So this is an example of whoever kickstarted this game did not pay them as much as Epic was willing to pay them to just have a free-to-play game on their storefront, in the hopes. And Epic, I guess, does need a Fortnite kind of replacement to always be available. Doesn't look like there's anything terribly wrong with this game. It does look like it is just a free-to-play player versus player shooter. Right. And that brings me to the Humble Bundle, and this will be our last game. Let's see. Would there be any new Humble Bundles as we're approaching less than 4 weeks till Christmas? Maybe less than 2 weeks till Christmas if I did the math. Doesn't look like it. Just more of the Jingle Jam annual bundle. Let's see. The Throne of Lies, the online game of deceit. Looks interesting. There's a new add-on. Skyscrapers. Looks slightly interesting here. And Scourgebringer may be a little bit interesting. But yeah, still a lot of games that are just not recognizable at all. And back on my Twitter feed, we have Zynga opens a new UK mobile studio to expand its racing portfolio. Okay. There's a game called Particulate that looks like a low effort physics game that came out on Steam. I'm not even going to bother to open the link because it's almost certainly not something I would want to put on play. Final Fantasy XIV has passed 18 million registered players. Oops, I should have blocked. There's something I could have blocked there. Magic the Gathering Arena is still pushing its pre-order. And the image kind of is explaining what you get if you pre-ordered. There's another Susan Wojcicki YouTube video she put out where she was interviewed by someone else. She's just letting herself being interviewed by YouTubers, but I believe the video is less than 2 minutes long. So yeah, like you're not getting in-depth interviews as far as Susan Wojcicki, and she's not saying anything useful at all or anything encouraging at all. She's still seems very very kind of uninterested in YouTubers and not really interested in running YouTube at all, as far as it seems, and more interested in just being a celebrity herself. Phantasy Star Online North America Xbox One closed beta signups are now available if you're interested in that. Let's see what else, if there's any bits of news. Knights and Bikes is now out. I think it's been out for a while. And there's a One Piece character added to One Piece Pirate Warriors 4. I think her name is called Big Mom. Yeah. She looks like a One Piece character, certainly. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, there is no news this Monday, and no big surprise there. So that leaves for me, I need to get 7 more creatures killed, which will be hard if I'm not paying attention. At least 2 more victories, ideally, to get up on the mastery level. If I get 15 done today, I'll have the weekly 15 done, but that's not a big deal because this will certainly be done by the end of the week. Mastery wise, we were, I believe, at 90 before today started, and now we are working our way to 95, and then yeah, so probably on Wednesday we get at least to 97, if not 98, and by Friday we'll get up to 100, and then since it's 30 days, that does mean it probably would take us maybe 7 more days to get to 110, and then that would leave us about 20 days in which we would just play, constantly getting uncommon card rewards, which I guess are better than commons. Like, I have yet to really figure out what the balance is as far as how often you get commons versus uncommons versus rares versus mythics. This really is about as little as they possibly could give you, though. Like, it could only be worse if they gave you commons every level. Or perhaps this changes. That is something I hadn't thought about it. But that's not how it's phrased. It says earn this reward for levels beyond 111. So I imagine it doesn't change. So that's going to be it for this stream. We went about 2 hours and 10 minutes, and so I could have easily made 2 recordings, but whatever. That's going to be it as always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me even further, there's a link to Patreon. Or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wish list, or gift me a gift card. Remember, the Christmas Steam sale is coming up. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.